It's a Spyderco Mule in CPM 4V. I got the knife and I reprofiled it to 30 inclusive, and then I sharpened it. Now, on the initial sharpening, I used the stones from the Spyderco Sharp Maker, the diamond down through ultra fine. After that, I moved on to strops, and I was on basswood using a 3 to 5 micron compound, and then I jumped to a 1 micron compound. And I found that after that, the knife was able to cut a free hanging hair. I wanted to not test the steel, but just get a feel for it, do some cutting with it, and then resharpen. You get a better idea of how the steel is going to sharpen and what kind of sharpness it's going to take when it's being sharpened after use, as opposed to right after being reprofiled. So I wanted to use different materials and see how the steel reacted. I decided to carry S30V along with it through the cutting, not so much to give a test of the two steels, to not to see which one would outcut the other, but just as a benchmark of performance. So this is a Spyderco native in S30V, a very old Spyderco native. It's been heavily reprofiled and sharpened. I use it sometimes if I'm testing S30V. So that's what I used. I sharpened the Spyderco native the same way. Took it, through the stones and then on strops to 1 micron on basswood. And I started the cutting. I started on cardboard using the bottom part of the knife, taped off the top of it. It was more or less push cutting, a little bit of movement. I wasn't too worried about it. Really, this was just to see how 4V did. Went through cardboard until both steels would stop shaving arm hair. 4V seemed to last a little bit longer. The edge was newer. The native was coming off of being sharpened after heavy wear, so that could have been a factor. After the cardboard, I moved on to wood. Took a piece of wood, marked 1 inch on it, and the wood was squared off, so I marked 1 inch on it and started on a corner with each knife, cutting little pieces off the corner. Not scientific at all, wasn't meant to be, didn't care for it to be. Moved through that, and neither knife was letting up, neither steel was letting up. So I moved on to 5/8 inch manila rope. Shortly after I started on the rope, the S30V stopped shaving hair. I kept going with 4V for a little bit. It eventually was slowing down, so I stopped. I went to resharpen the knife in 4V again. I started with the diamond stone from the Sharp Maker and brought it to an apex, cleaned up the apex of the knife, and then immediately jumped to a 3000 grit stone. Now, 3000 grit, this was the stone I was using. I assume it's 3000 grit. It was sold as 3000 grit. It's a very inexpensive stone. I bought it online. It came from overseas. I don't know if it's really 3000 grit. I couldn't tell you what company produced it. The packaging was all in Chinese, and in fact, when I ordered it, I ordered 1 and I got 4. They seem to all be the same, given the stickers that with what looks like serial numbers on them. So that's fine. I'm experimenting with the stone. I don't know if it's really 3000 grit. I don't really care. Assuming that it is 3000 grit, I jumped straight from coarse diamond to that. Now, people are going to say, hey, you can't do that. You can't make that kind of jump. Well, I just did. After the 3000 grit stone, I moved on to the ultrafine stone from the Spyderco Sharp Maker and finished up on that. After the ultrafine stone, I went to strops again, back on basswood, 3 to 5 micron, then basswood with 1 micron. And I found that after that, again, the knife was cutting free hanging hairs. It was catching them and going right through. The steel seems to take a high sharpness. and that's interesting. The the steel isn't too far from S30V in its makeup. It's got a lot less chromium though. It's not stainless. It's supposed to, and the lower chromium content might increase toughness of the steel. It's supposed to be a tough steel, not as tough as 3V, but it's supposed to be have a good impact toughness. The knife was plenty sharp enough, but just for the fun of it, I jumped from the 1 micron on basswood to a 1/4 micron on leather, and then 1/10 of a micron on leather, and took it up, and the sharpness was still there. I mean, it, you know, at the point where you're going through hairs like that, you're about as sharp as you're going to get. So, interesting steel. More to do with it. We'll, I don't know, see what comes from it. I'll make this a user. The hand wrap was me. I don't do handles. I'm not a knife maker. This was good enough to be functional. And I don't know, I guess at some point I'll have to make a sheath for it.